And greetings, kings and queens. Welcome back to the Always a Queen platform for another Sunday afternoon live broadcast. Happy Sunday to you all, whether you are watching live or you are watching this video after it has been uploaded to the platform. Happy Sunday or happy whatever day it is that you happen to be watching this. Thank you for being here. And this afternoon, our topic is self love. It's Self Love Sunday. Yes, it is, kings and queens. It's Self Love Sunday. That's what we're going to be talking about here today. Um, and I know that this is a topic that we talk about all the time. I am very sure that I have done a live on self love or self esteem or something along those lines on this platform before. Not in the recent past. Definitely not in the recent past. I cannot recall doing a live on this topic recently, but I'm sure I have done at some point in the past. But it's a topic that I think we can never ever exhaust. It is impossible to exhaust this topic. There's just no way. Um, I don't think it's a topic that anybody could talk about too much, quote unquote. I don't think that it's something that can be overemphasized. I don't think that is possible because it is so important. Um, and I think one of the reasons why this is such an important topic to keep talking about is because so many people struggle with it. It is a real struggle for a lot of women and men. Of course, as you know, I target women specifically on this platform. It's called Always a Queen for a reason, right? But I just want to make the point that self-love is an issue for a lot of men too. And so this is a conversation for everyone. I am targeting women, as I said, but it's a conversation that I think kings can also benefit greatly from because it is a struggle for so many people. Um, and so if you are one of those women or men who is struggling with self love, if you are like, you know what, I have read all of the self help books, I have read every magazine article, every online article, I've attended all the seminars, I have done all the things, and I am still struggling with my self worth. I am still struggling with loving myself the way that I'm supposed to. My self esteem is still not where it's supposed to be. If you are one of those people, this is a conversation for you. So stay with me, interact with me, and let's talk about Self Love Sunday. And while you're at it, you can share this live because you may know a couple of people who need to have this conversation again and again and as many times as is necessary for us to come to the point where we fully and completely and thoroughly love all of ourselves, right? Because that's the goal. That's the goal. And we're not going to pretend that this is an easy task. If it were easy, we wouldn't have to keep talking about it. The reason why we have to keep talking about it is because it's not easy. It's actually very, very challenging. It's a difficult process to bring yourself to the point where you fully and just thoroughly love yourself in every way. And so, if it was an easy thing, everybody would be doing it. It would not be a problem. We would all be fine, and I would not need to be doing a live about self love this Sunday afternoon. But it is a problem. It's hard work, it is a challenge. So, let's tackle it. Let's get into it. Okay, so I'm going to give you one moment for you to share this live. If you haven't already, please share this live. Call up a friend. Let somebody who you think needs to hear this get on this live with you, and let's unpack this self love issue. Okay, let's talk about it some more, even though we've talked about it so much before. All right. So, the first thing I want to touch on, and this is going to be a very candid conversation today. The first thing I want to touch on is the order in which love has to happen. And I think that this is one of the first and probably the biggest errors that we make in our self love journeys, which is one of the reasons why some people do not make the journey successfully. The order of love is super important. And so I can see you probably raising your eyebrows right now saying, what is she talking about? What is this order of love? What is that? I am going to break down what I refer to as the order of love. I don't know if anybody else calls it that, but that's what I refer to it as, the order of love. And the order of love is essentially the order in which we are to give and receive love. So we are taught that love has to begin with a love for God. And I'm using God. I know that we might, our listeners, our followers might be of varying spiritual beliefs and religious persuasions and so on. So God, or whatever name you prefer to use to describe your higher power. Okay. Um, and that love, I am using the name God. And I think that that is, universally what we would use to refer to our higher power that we believe in, our divine source, however you want to call it. And so I'm going to say God today for the purpose of this discussion. And love for God has to be at the very top, at the very top of the list, where when we talk about the order in which love has to be given and received. Um, why does that have to be first on the list? Um, the reason why this is first on the list and why this is the most critical aspect of love and self love and the self love process is because a love for God or your creator or your divine source or the universe or whatever you want to call it, that love is a love for the created. You are a product of that divine source's creation. And so it means that there is a full acceptance. There is a whole embracing of the fact that you were created perfectly without errors. Like God did not make any mistakes when you were being created. You are literally just a small piece of God's handiwork. Essentially, you were created perfectly. And don't misunderstand me when I use the word perfect. I am not trying to say that we have some perfect humans walking around out here. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that you were created perfectly, as in there is nothing wrong with the way you were created. And so you need to understand that that's the first thing, that you need to accept that you are a magical piece of creation. That's the first thing. You also need to understand that not only are you a magical piece of creation, but you are loved by the one that created you. You are deeply and fully and thoroughly and completely loved by the Creator, because the Creator was intentional about creating you. And so that type of love is like, it's the kind of love that you can't do anything about it. There's nothing that you can do to stop it. It doesn't matter how many mistakes you make, how many times you mess up. The Creator is never going to stop loving you. We can equate that to, for example, the love you would have for your child. I'm sure many of you listening to me right now have children, a child or children. Think of the many times that your child has done something that really grinds your gears. Like you are hopping mad. You're so mad. You're like, listen, listen, child, right? You like you ready to wring somebody's neck because you're so mad. But think about it for a moment. As mad as you are at that child, do you stop loving that child? Nope. No, you don't. No, you don't. We don't stop loving our children just because they messed up or they did something that annoys us. Or, they made a mistake or they made a mess or or we gave them an order and they didn't follow through on the order that we give them. They disobeyed or they were disrespectful or whatever it is they did. You mad, but you definitely don't stop loving that child. And so think of your relationship with the Creator in that same way. It's an unquenchable, unstoppable, immeasurable, infinite love that just can't possibly run out. It's just impossible for it to run out. And so that has got to be the standard. That is like the ultimate, highest standard of love that exists. Think of it for a moment. Like there is nothing greater. Now, the reason why that has to come at the very top of the list when I talk about the order of love is because any other love that follows that has to measure up. It has to come close. It has to reflect that type of love. Like that's the goal, that's the aim, that's what we're trying to get to, right? And so that is our standard. That's the gold standard. That's the gold standard. Greetings, Queen Saran. Welcome. That's the gold standard where it comes to love. And then after that, next on the list is guess who? Because you love God, you love the Creator, the Most High, the divine source, the universe, whatever you call it, whatever name is works for you. After your love for God, next on the list has got to be your love for yourself. Why does your love for yourself have to come next? Because many of us make the mistake of thinking that after God, the next thing on the list has to be other people. Like you love God and then you love other people, and then you are coming somewhere further down the list. That is not okay. Wrong order, my friends, wrong order. Love for God, definitely always at the top of the list, but after that must come you. You must be next. So, your love for God, your love for the Creator sets the standard for the type of love that you want to have in your life, the type of love that you want to give, and definitely the type of love that you want to receive from the people around you. But you practice that. You practice that by loving yourself. You practice exercising that type of love by first giving it to yourself. Yes, sir, and yes, ma'am. You don't practice by giving it to somebody else. You practice first on yourself. And you then become, what do you call it? The love that you have for yourself becomes the prototype of what the rest of the love in your life is going to look like. And that is real, real, real. Greetings, Queen Irie sister. And greetings to Beatrice Black. Welcome to this afternoon's live. Thank you so much for joining me. All right, so we're talking about self love today. And just quickly to jump back for those persons who are just joining, I am talking about the order of love. And we started out with love for the Creator being the standard, the gold standard, and the way that we are loved by our Creator, the way we're loved by God, and the fact that there's nothing that we can do to cut off that love or to stop it or to make God stop loving us. Like that's not even possible. No matter how much you mess up and make mistakes and do things that you want not to do, or, go down wrong paths in your life and whatever it is, make bad choices, all the things that we often do as human beings, nothing that you could do could stop God from loving you. God is going to keep loving you no matter what. And I used the example of you loving your children that way, because that's also how we love our children, isn't it? That's an excellent example of the way God loves us. Your children do all kinds of things that annoy you, probably on a day-to-day basis, but you don't stop loving them. You get very upset with them sometimes, but you don't stop loving them. It's an unquenchable kind of love. And so it is the standard by which all other love should be measured. And then following that love, next on the list in the order of love that I am speaking to, is your love for yourself. Right? And so you want to be able to also provide that type of unconditional, fulfilling, satisfying, all encompassing love for yourself as well. How many of us can say that we truly love ourselves that way? How many of us? Very few of us. Very few of us. If we tell the truth, if we tell the absolute truth, the truth will be that the vast majority of us are still struggling with loving ourselves as thoroughly, as completely, as fully as we should. There may be areas of ourselves that we really admire and love, and then there are some other areas where we are still criticizing ourselves. We're extremely self-critical, and even speak negatively over ourselves because we have certain specific shortcomings or flaws that we think are just absolutely terrible. And so many of us, if we are completely honest, do not love ourselves as fully and as thoroughly as we should. It is an issue for most people. The vast majority of human beings, if they are honest, will confess that this is the case. There's something about me that I just don't like. There's some part of my body that I just don't like. I don't like to see this. I don't think I'm good at that, and so on and so forth. Right. And so this is a work in progress for most people. And so I say that as you are making progress, you should have a goal. You should know where you're trying to get to, right? Because otherwise, if you don't have a goal, otherwise, how will you be able to measure your progress? How do you know if you are getting there, if you're closer, or if you're further away from the goal, if you have no goal? And so the goal is to have the kind of unconditional love for yourself, even in the moments when you mess up. Even in the moments when you have wandered down some path in your life that you had no business wandering down. Even in the moments when you find that you have made a decision that somewhere in the back of your mind you knew you should not have made, but you went ahead and did it anyway. And now you're suffering the consequences and you're beating yourself up and you're wishing that you did it. And you're telling yourself, I'm so this and I'm so that and I'm the worst and whatever. Even on those days, your love for yourself is supposed to be all encompassing and overwhelming, enough to wash away those moments. That's the kind of love that we're aiming for. It's the kind of love that helps you to correct your errors, to get back on the correct path, while at the same time giving you all the grace and all the compassion that you deserve because you are human. That's the kind of love that we're supposed to be aiming for. And if I were to take a survey right now of those of you who are here watching me live right now, and I asked you to give yourself a score or on a scale of say 1 to 10, where you would measure yourself, where it comes to having that type of love for yourself, what score would you give yourself? Would you be giving yourself a 5? Would you give yourself an 8? Would you give yourself a 2? Think about it. You don't need to put it in the chat section, but think about it for a moment and think of where you actually are where it comes to giving yourself that kind of love. If you're not getting a very good score, you still have some work to do. You have some work to do. And I wouldn't even give myself a full score. I would never give myself a 10 out of 10. Even as I am sitting here talking about it and teaching about it, I even would not give myself a full score because I know that there are still days where I am beating myself up because I didn't get something quite right, or I wanted to do something and didn't do it, or I set a goal and I didn't accomplish it, or I'm not as disciplined as I want to be, or whatever it is. And you beat yourself up and you forget to give yourself the grace and the compassion that you should. And so none of us could give ourselves a 10 out of 10 for this. We all have some work to do in this area. Okay, so let's move down the order. So, love for God, we started there. And then next, love for yourself, which, like I said, is the prototype for what all other love in your life is going to look like. Because loving yourself is what helps you to be able to teach others how you want to be loved. You teach others how to love you based on the way you love yourself. I want that to sink right in. Let me say that again. You teach others how to love you based on the way you love yourself. So if you are not giving yourself the love that you deserve, then you should not reasonably expect that somebody else is going to walk up and do that for you. Okay? All right. And so the order again: love for God, love for yourself, and then finally, we can bring in other people. We can bring in other humans at this point, because at this point, you have fully grasped the way that the Creator loves you, and you have been able to incorporate that full love into your own life by showering yourself with that love. And then and only then are you ready, truly ready, to go out and love other people. How can you love other people if you haven't managed to love yourself? Is the question, really. Is that even a thing? Like, how do you pull that off? Because true love has to start with you. You must have learned to give that to yourself before. You cannot give anybody what you don't have. How will you feed anybody from an empty pot? So you must be pouring into yourself before you can pour into others. It's logical, I think, right? So that is where I want to start off this conversation. That's where I want to start. That's just me laying the foundation of the whole self-love discussion. All right. So from there, greetings, Cynthia. Welcome to our little Sunday afternoon chat. We're talking self-love today. Thank you for popping on. So, self-love, the best love after God's love. Absolutely, Saran. Agreed. So, with that foundation being laid, I want to throw in another thing, and that is that a lot of the times the reason why many people are still struggling with self love, despite the fact that we talk about it so much, there's so much information about self love and self esteem and self worth all over the internet. Everyone is doing a seminar, a workshop about building self esteem. People are going to therapy to work on their self esteem. It's all over, it's a thing, but people still struggle so much with it. And I think one of the reasons, and that is really what I want to address here today, is the struggle. Is the struggle. Like despite the fact that you know all the things, why the struggle still continues. And so that is really what I want to get into today. It's like I'm doing all the things, but still, and so I'm touching on all the buts this afternoon. That's what I want to hit, because I want people to start removing, like, all the things to do, but the roadblocks seem to still be there. Like so they're preventing you from going about doing the things that you're supposed to do. So let's see if we can clear some of these roadblocks out of the way, right? Chris says, "Oh, this is a super important comment. Love as an action is work. It's hard." I don't think I could possibly have put it any better than that. That is profoundly true. That is a profound truth in every way. It is hard work. And do you know which type is especially hard? The one that you have to give to yourself. Yes, it is. The one that you have to give to yourself. And I'm going to tell you why that is the hardest. That is the most laborious love for most people, is because they have to give themselves the love that I was talking about at the beginning of this live. And that is the love that we get automatically, organically from the Creator. We are the created, we are a magical part of creation. And the Creator offers us a love that is infinite, immeasurable, unconditional, all encompassing kind of love. Like there is nothing you could do to stop God from loving you. There's nothing. You could make the world of mistakes. Nothing you could ever do could stop God from loving you. God will love you in spite of. No matter how much dumb stuff you do. And I repeat again, for anyone who wasn't here at the start, is the same way we love our children. Your children do all kinds of like just the unimaginable, and you want to kill them, but you don't, because you love them. There isn't anything that you could do to love to not love your children. It's like you can't unlove them. Is that a word? Unlove? I don't know. It's like you can't unlove them. And so that magnitude of love, like that type of unconditional, all-encompassing kind of love, you need to have that kind of love for yourself. It's rough. And do you know why so many people struggle so much with this? Because they have to love themselves in spite of the body parts they don't like, in spite of all the things that they wish they could have accomplished and have not, in spite of all the poor choices that they have made, in spite of the opportunities that they let go by, in spite of, and I could keep going and going and going. Listen, they have to love themselves despite all the things that they have programmed themselves to think is bad about themselves. It's like they have to love themselves over all of that mountain of stuff that they think is wrong with them. They have to love themselves over all of the trauma that they have experienced in their lives, over all the abuse. They have to love themselves. They have to love themselves over all of the anger that they may feel to people who have hurt them. They have to, through all of that, you have to love yourself. And that's hard. That's hard. That is, listen, let me go back into the comment section for a moment. Because I want to interact with those who are listening as much as I can as I talk about this, because I want this to be interactive. I want you to be a part of this conversation, right? Chris says it takes work and me lazy. I hear you, Chris. I hear you. Oh, this is also a profound truth here that Saran is sharing, where she says, I think we all have challenging areas to work on. That is absolutely true. Every last one of us, even myself, I include myself when I say that none of us is really offering ourselves that all encompassing unconditional love that I'm describing. None of us is giving ourselves that. We all have work to do. We are all holding back a little bit of that love from ourselves. If we are to be completely honest, we're all holding back. None of us is giving ourselves that full unconditional love. Maybe we're giving 80. Some of us may be giving 90 or 95 even, but we're holding something back because we are still holding something against ourselves for something we didn't get right, something that we think is wrong with us, something about us that we don't like, just something. It's like you come up with reasons to not extend that unconditional love to yourself. And we need to be able to move past that. That is a hurdle that we all have to jump over. Saran, this every passy must work, right? Yep. We none of us can escape it. And here we are, Fiona. This is why I love you, sis. This is why I love you. This is my cousin sister. We've normalized not giving ourselves grace so much that when we need it most, we struggle to do it. Isn't that the truth? Listen, girl, you preaching more than I can say amen. Listen, this is the whole truth. We've normalized just not giving ourselves grace. And this is also the reason why some of us struggle with forgiveness so much. We're not talking about forgiveness today. This live is not about forgiveness, but let me just throw this in because this is also a part of self love. The reason why many of us struggle to forgive other people who have hurt us, who have broken us, who have traumatized us in various ways, and we hold on to that animosity and that resentment for years and years and years, and we let it continue to just cause chaos in our lives day after day, year after year, and we don't let go and we don't forgive and we don't release and we don't move on. And the reason why we struggle with that and we can't do it is because we have not been able to even do that for ourselves. Can't forgive somebody else because I don't even know how to forgive myself for the errors I have made. I am not forgiving me, so why would I forgive that other person over yonder? Like, I can't offer somebody what I have not offered to myself. So no forgiveness for me, no forgiveness for that other person either, is basically what it boils down to. You cannot give anybody what you have not given yourself. You can't give somebody what you don't have, is basically what I'm saying. You cannot give what you have never received. And so the self love and the compassion and the grace that you offer yourself, including grace for errors that you have committed, for times when you slip and fall, which is going to happen because you are human, forgiveness and grace and compassion for self, which facilitates you being able to then do it for another human being. One of the reasons why some of us struggle so much to forgive somebody and just release what they did to us like 10 years ago is because we have not even started the forgiveness work for ourselves. For the times when we have slipped and fallen and messed up and done something stupid, which we have all done at some point, you got to forgive yourself. That is, and I said this earlier in this evening's conversation. You practice with yourself. You practice this love. This self-love is the practiced, is practicing basically on yourself how your other interactions with humans will look. It's the practicing ground, it's the rehearsal for what your other interactions will look like in this life. And so basically, what is the rehearsal looking like? This is a question we need to all ask ourselves. Okay. Saran says children display true unconditional love. I agree with that. I think children are very honest where it comes to just giving completely and totally of themselves. They love with all of their hearts. And that is because love is what? Love is the emotion that comes most naturally to the human heart. It truly does. It comes most naturally to the human heart. It begins to recede and to dissipate as we get older and we start to get subjected to that social conditioning that society puts us through. And over time, what comes naturally to the human heart no longer does so. It gets replaced by other things that result from the social conditioning that we are all subjected to in this world that we live in. And we live in a crazy, crazy world. And so you find that the older a child becomes, the less naturally that love, that unconditional love flows from them. I'm sure there was a time when even us, those of us who are here as adults, grown women having this conversation, I'm sure there was a time when we were loving the way children love. But what has happened to us? Social conditioning basically is what has happened to us. The world has happened to us, and you have to be intentional about pushing back against that social conditioning. Otherwise, it will just happen organically, very naturally, without you even noticing that it is happening. You have to be very intentional about pushing back against it. Otherwise, it will just be taking its course, running its course in the background without you being even aware that it is occurring. All right. So let's see. Anything else? The comment section is really, really, really interesting here today. Fiona says you're real loud about that 80%. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm just here to tell the truth. I'm here to speak the truth today. I'm giving you the whole truth today, right? Okay, so I see we have a question here. Let's see, what is the question we have here? Why is it easy to give other people who we love that grace, but often difficult to give it to ourselves? Wow, this is a bombastic question. Listen, the short answer to that is because we don't think we deserve it. We don't think that we deserve it. That is really what it boils down to. We do not think often that we deserve the same compassion and mercy and grace that other people deserve. We are often harder on ourselves than we are on others. Many of us are very cool with offering grace and compassion to some human beings in our lives, especially, as Chris said, if there are people that we love and we are willing to offer them grace when they slip and fall, and we do not offer ourselves that same grace and that same compassion, and many times it's because we don't think we deserve it. We truly, somewhere in our subconscious mind, we don't really believe that we deserve it. Many of us. And that is probably the biggest sign that some self love work needs to be happening, because you do deserve it. The question to ask yourself is, why don't I think I deserve this compassion and this grace? Why? Why do I think that I am not deserving of this? What is it that I have done? Or sometimes the real question is, what has been done to me to cause me to think that I do not deserve this? Two big questions. What have I done that would make me think I don't deserve this grace? Or what has been done to me? Is it that somebody caused me to think this? Is it that I have been subjected to traumas that are making me think this? Is it that I have been subjected to experiences, various types of abuse, whatever it is, that is causing me somewhere in my subconscious mind, even though I may not be fully conscious of it, not fully aware of it, but somewhere in my brain, it is recorded that I do not deserve this. And so I am responding that way. My subconscious mind is responding that way by making it hard, by impeding my progress every time I try to build up robust self-love. Like something is just blocking the path. What is it? These are questions that you really have to ask yourself. What is it? Why don't I believe I deserve this? Why? What is in the background that is causing me to think that I don't deserve this? Or that is causing me to act like I don't deserve this? Something that is stored there that needs to be pulled out and unpacked and healed, probably, that will open the way for you to truly give yourself the grace that you deserve. I hope I'm coming through. I hope something I'm saying is resonating here today. Okay. All right. Anything else that I want to highlight here? I see my husband is saying the earrings. All right. Let's highlight this. And we are so hard on ourselves that we jeopardize everything, potentials, and all the great possibilities. Yes, ma'am. Whole truth. Cynthia with the facts. Right here. The whole truth is right there. We literally sabotage ourselves many times. I see it happening every single day. I see people in my office every day who are dealing with critical issues in their lives and in their family lives. And when you boil it down, it's them sabotaging themselves. Self sabotage from beginning to end, sabotaging themselves and creating their own chaos and their own issues and their own drama, and they're not even aware of it. They do not realize that they are the ones that are shooting themselves in the foot, right? And so, very, very true, profoundly true. Greetings, Queen Serene. Welcome to this afternoon's live. We're talking about self love here today. All right. So, another point that I want to make, and I already see that this this conversation might turn into a part two, because it has really it has gotten quite intense. um, Another point I want to make here, and this draws from the point that Cynthia made, where she talks about jeopardizing ourselves, sabotaging ourselves. And the point I want to make from that is that self love does not happen, cannot happen, unless one makes a decision to go from victim to victor. Okay? Victim to victor, meaning that yes, terrible things may have happened to you in your life. Absolutely. Nobody can take that from you. That had it happened. It happened. You were traumatized in whatever way. You have endured whatever types of abuse. You have suffered. You have gone through 100 storms in your life. You have endured the unthinkable. Yes, we know this. It has all happened. And our hearts go out to you. Yes. But you must make a choice to rise above it. Nobody can make that choice for you. Nobody. You, whenever you have endured pain, and this applies to every human being, whenever you endure painful experiences, and we all have to endure painful experiences sometimes, none of us is immune to this. Every last one of us, at some point along our journeys, have to feel some pain. It happens. None of us has lived a perfect life, and none of us is going to attain perfection at any point. This world is crazy. And so at some point along your journey, you will experience some painful situations. It's going to happen. It's normal. But when you experience painful situations, you always have two choices. Kings and queens, you always have two choices. You can choose to let that pain define you, meaning you let that pain chart your course. You let that pain inform all of your decisions. And so you're making your life choices from a place of pain, which means that you're going to be making poor choices and poor decisions. That is you choosing to remain a victim of that pain. That is you getting up every day and making a choice to live a victim life with a victim mindset and victim mentality. This happened to me, and so my life is ruined. My life is over, and everything that I do going forward is going to be defined by this thing that happened to me. You do have that choice, and you can choose to live that way if you want to. You can do that. There are many human beings who do that. They choose to just let their pain take over their lives and take them down that path, and they just live that way. You have that choice. Nobody can stop you from making that choice. You can do that if you want. But there's also option two, which is instead of letting that pain define you and take over your life and take you down that path of victim mentality and misery, you can instead choose to turn that pain into power. Hello? You can instead choose to turn that pain into power. Point. Most of the powerful people that you know in this world today, and I say this without any reservation, most of the powerful people that you know in this world today, just think of somebody powerful, somebody very influential, powerful people in this world. Just think of anybody, just call a name. These powerful people will tell you that they are coming from the most painful past that you could ever imagine. They have been through some of the most unthinkable traumas that any human being can experience. And they made a choice. They made a choice. And they did not choose number one. They did not choose to remain a victim. They chose instead the second path. They chose number two. They chose to take that pain and turn it into power. They chose instead to take that pain and create a redemptive narrative out of that pain and used it as fuel to empower and to propel them into an amazing future. The question is, what choice are you going to make? Are you choosing one or are you choosing two? This is ultimately what it boils down to. And on this premise, we can start building self-love. So you see all of this groundwork that must be laid in order for anybody to even start talking about loving themselves. Like this business of self-love is not just waking up every morning and saying, okay, I'm going to say these affirmations and I will be fine. No, no. Do you know that there are people who get up every morning and repeat affirmations and it does absolutely nothing for them? No change. They saw somewhere on the internet somewhere, somebody said, you're supposed to repeat affirmations. You're supposed to get up and read these affirmations. I am strong. I am confident. I am powerful. I am this and I am that. And they're reading these affirmations every day and their lives remain the same. You may know somebody like that. Or you may even be somebody like that. I'm not judging you, sis. I'm just saying that's not how the affirmations work. Affirmations do not just transform a subconscious mind that needs healing. Affirmations don't just go in there and just automatically overpower two decades of trauma. That is not how this works. This is the reason why sometimes people will come and say, I'm saying the affirmations, but it's not working. What's wrong? Am I doing it wrong? Am I not saying it enough? Affirmations, and maybe I should do a live one of these Sundays on affirmations and how the whole process of saying affirmations actually works and why sometimes it doesn't work. Because we are trying, sometimes some of us are repeating affirmations, but we are using the affirmations like band-aids to cover up a sore that really is not even ready for a band-aid. Some sores do not thrive if they are covered up. Some of them you need to expose them, open them up and clean that sore out, get it all out. Clean it, get all the nasty out. And then after you have cleaned the wound and properly dealt with it, then you can bandage it with affirmations. You see how that works? But that's a whole other conversation. That's a whole other conversation. Let me pause and have a look at our comment section because I see we have a lot of comments over here. Right? Yes, a very intentional effort until it becomes conditional, not a happenstance. I love that. I love that so very much. Thank you for that, Serene. Love that. Let's highlight Serene is in the comments on fire over here. Utilize positive people, positive social media lives as this support circle. Intentionally engage with people speaking and being the spirit you work to manifest pray for, and dream about. Customize your affirmations. When you see an affirmation, place your name, your circumstance, so to hold you accountable to properly care for yourself. I like that too. Customize those affirmations. I absolutely 100% agree. Yes, I realized that you had some some typos there. We figured it out, sis. It's okay. We figured it out. Okay. Yes. And know it happens in stages. Similarly to building a steady foundation for your house, you place and remove positive thoughts and harmful people that are working for you until you are happy, content, not complacent. Got you. All right. Good stuff. So let's move on to another point that I want to make. And I see we are coming up, we're just 2 minutes away from the top of the hour, and I really don't want to go on too long today. But just to put a cap on the point I was making earlier, about choosing not to be a victim, and this is big because when you are a victim, it means that you did not choose the circumstance. Somebody victimized you. You didn't ask to be abused. You didn't ask to be traumatized. You didn't ask to be taken advantage of or any of that stuff. Someone subjected you to that. And so, in that light, you were a victim. But if you choose to allow that to be your mindset, that victim mindset, and you continue with that mindset through your life, you go essentially from being a victim to being a volunteer. It's like the first time somebody traumatized you, you didn't volunteer to be traumatized. Certainly, nobody volunteers to be traumatized. You were made a victim by some other person who did things to you, right? In that case, it wasn't a choice. You didn't choose that path. But once you have moved past the moment in which that happened to you, the moment or the period of time in which that happened to you, and then after that, you choose, rather than to release the victim mindset, to do the work that you have to do to heal and to move forward, you are then choosing. It's literally a choice. It's literally a choice that you get up every day and make. When you are living with a victim mindset, it's a choice that you're making every single day. You get up and make that choice. So you are not a victim anymore because nobody's subjecting you to it. You are subjecting yourself to it, quite literally. And so, in that light, are you truly a victim? No, at that point, you're not a victim anymore. You are volunteering. No, you're volunteering. You're literally offering up yourself and saying, I volunteer to live this victim mindset life. I choose it. I'm volunteering. That's what you're doing. So you're no longer a victim, you're now a volunteer. You have gone from victim to volunteer. So you're now volunteering yourself by waking up every single morning and choosing that path. You're volunteering yourself to live a life of trauma and misery, unhappiness, dissatisfaction, and just chaos. It's a choice. So, this is another question to ask yourself. Am I getting up every day and volunteering? Have I transitioned from victim to volunteer by getting up every day and choosing not to do the work I need to do to heal from the things that have happened to me? This is the foundation for self love. You will not love yourself the way you should if you do not do this work. This takes us right back to the question that Chris asked earlier, where she said, why is it that some of us are struggling to give ourselves grace and compassion and we can give it to other people, we can't give it? It's because you don't think you deserve it. It's because you do not think you deserve it because you're walking around with this victim mindset. This happened to me. And so you are allowing your traumas essentially to dictate how you live your life, and also what you do and don't deserve, because you have to find a way to love yourself past all the things that have happened to you. But in order to do that, you have to work through the things that have happened to you. So you are essentially standing in your own way by not doing the work you need to do to heal. I hope I'm resonating with somebody today. I hope so. I really do. All right. So I'm going to make one last point, and then we will come back next week, Sunday, with a part two for this broadcast, because there's so many other things that I want to say. I have a whole page of notes here in my book that I haven't even touched yet. So this is me just basically laying what is the critical foundation for any conversation about loving oneself. Loving yourself won't happen unless all of these things that I'm speaking to here have happened first. This is probably the primary reason why the average woman is struggling to love herself, because the foundation, when people are when people are talking about self-love, they don't talk about all of the things, all of the prerequisites to self love. I rarely ever hear people having this conversation about all of the things that must happen before you can even say, I am going to try to love myself now. Like that is actually secondary to a lot of this work that many of us have failed to do. A lot of us want to just show up on the self love scene without having laid the foundation and understanding clearly what are the things that need to happen in order for us to fully love ourselves as we should, to be able to give ourselves that love that I spoke about at the start, that is just all encompassing and unconditional. Can you love yourself that way if you have not worked through all of the things that are just sitting and hovering in your subconscious mind? No. The short answer is no. The short answer is no. Okay? So, final thing I'm going to say, very last point that I'm going to make today, and then we're going to wrap up this live. And I am promising part two comes next week. All right. So, my last point is this, and this is particularly for the women. I know that there are some kings listening as well, but this one is particularly for the queens. Listen to me, queens. The world that we live in, the world that we live in quite literally sets us up to not love ourselves. I'm going to say that again. The world that we live in sets us up to not love ourselves. This world is literally designed to create an atmosphere that will cause people to question themselves, especially women. I know you know what I'm talking about. All you need to do to understand the point I'm making is just switch on your computer or pull out your smartphone and start scrolling on social media, and you will see what I mean. We are literally right now living in a system, and it is not just right now. So I'm not even going to say right now. It is just the way the world has functioned. Greetings, Beverly. Welcome. Thank you for being here. The way this world has been functioning from time immemorial, not just now, from time immemorial, the way the world has been functioning is in a way like there are literally systems in place in this world that are created specifically for the undermining of people who are born female. You work and you are paid less. Your rights are violated constantly. We are told that it's a man's world. We are told that we have to be subjected to and inferior to and answer to. You know, this is the way the systems that we have been socialized in are set up. And this is the reason why we live in a world where the vast majority of victims of abuse are women. The vast majority of victims of sexual trafficking are women. The vast majority of um, people who are seeking assistance from social welfare and other types of assistance, whether it is for housing or for food, are women and children. The most vulnerable populations in this world today are women and children. And so we exist in systems and in spaces that were not necessarily created to lift and to build women. Women must fight for the spaces that we take up. We must fight for them, quite literally. And more so if you are a woman of color. Now, we're not even going to start on that because that's a whole other kettle of fish, right? And so I say all of that to say that, listen, if you're waiting for the world to validate you so that you can base your self love on that, you're setting yourself up. It's not going to happen, sis. It's a setup. The world, the systems in which you exist are not going to validate you. They are going to do the exact opposite. They're going to tell you you're not slim enough. They're going to tell you your skin isn't light enough. They're going to tell you your hair isn't long enough. They're going to tell you that you're not qualified enough, that you're not pretty enough, that your skin not smooth enough, that your eyebrows aren't perfect, that your eyes are not the right color, that your teeth aren't straight enough. Listen, you're too heavy or you're too skinny. I mean, is this not the world that we live in? Am I living in a different world from the rest of the other women? Because that is the way the world I'm living right now is set up. If they tell you that you're too fat and you go and you lose some weight, then they tell you that your body is not toned enough. Now you need to go and get some surgery because it's too much loose skin, right? It's like you can't get it right. And so, and it's worse now. It's worse now because of social media. Beverly just said that. And with bad hair to top it off, nappy. Do you know that the hair industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry right now, which profits off of what? Wait for it, Cynthia. Why you got me started? The hair industry is a multi-billion-dollar billion, not million, billion-dollar industry in this world today, which profits primarily, if not solely, off of the insecurity of women. I said what I said. Is it true or is it true? Does the hair industry, the multi-billion dollar hair industry, which many of us, including myself, have spent hundreds, perhaps thousands of dollars on, benefits from the insecurity of women? Women who cannot leave their houses without that hair on their head because their own hair is just in their eyes it's not good enough. I used to be one of those women. Let me just go ahead and tell the truth. There was a time in my life when I was one of those women. Not anymore, thank God. But listen, insecurity. So you want to talk about systems, you want to talk about systems that we live in and spaces that we have to exist in that are not going to validate us. I could talk about that all night, but I don't have time. The point is, don't wait on the world to validate you, queen, because it is a setup. It's a setup. The world will not validate you. The world will, to the contrary, pull you down and make you feel bad about yourself. The world will question your value. The world will make you question your value. The world will make you question your self worth and your self esteem. The world will make you question your beauty. The world will make you question whether or not you are meeting the standards that they say everyone has to meet. The world will make you question everything about yourself. And then, wait for it. The world will make you question everything about yourself, and then the world will provide you with a solution to cover over your insecurity like a band-aid. Like they make you question whether or not your hair is beautiful. There's the propaganda that says that your hair is not beautiful, the way that it comes out of your head. It grows out of your head that way and it is ugly. That's the propaganda that the world throws at you. So they make you question your self worth and your value. And then they come back. The same world comes back and they offer you this beautiful human hair wig and say, here, wear this. We have the solution to your problem. So they create the insecurity and then they give you a band-aid just to put over it. They're not fixing the insecurity. They're just covering it up. So you have to spend the rest of your life now wearing this wig, and you feel like you cannot go anywhere without your wig. Your wig becomes like an anchor for your life because you think you are not pretty without it. Listen, do you understand the systems in which we are existing? This is serious. And some of you are waiting for validation from this world that is toying with your mind and causing you to question your worth, and then giving you temporary band aids to cover up your insecurities. Hello. So you cannot expect validation from the world. The world isn't going to give it to you. So where is it supposed to come from? Yourself. Self validation, self validation. That's where we're going. And that is exactly where we're going to start the next live. The next live will start right there. Self validation. That's the first thing I'm going to touch on next week, Sunday, when I come back for part 2 of this conversation, because like I said, this conversation is far from over. There's a part 2 coming. I'm going to come back next Sunday afternoon and tackle the other half of this self-love discussion, because we have only just touched the surface. We're just touching the surface. There is still so much more to be said. So I encourage you to be back here with me next week Sunday to finish this conversation, okay? And bring a friend with you and share this live if there's anybody you think needs to hear this conversation, so that they can be prepared for when we get into some more serious stuff next week, right? Let me have a look at the comment section before we wrap up today. All right. Cynthia says highway robbery. Highway robbery. Is that the hair? Are you talking about the hair industry? Highway robbery. Well, listen, there are some women who spend some good money on the hair on their head. Let me tell you, we're not even gonna get into it. Listen, it's serious. Oh, Serene. But I need some clip-ins. This here is work. Listen, sis, I am not judging you. Get your clip-ins. Get those clip-ins and do the do, because you have got to look fly when you step out the door. I know. Get those clip-ins. I am not against the clip-ins. Get into it, sis, because I know that with or without the clip-ins, your self-esteem is intact. Because I know you. I know that you have enough confidence for you and about 3 of us. So get your clip-ins, sis. You do your thing. All right, so I am going to wrap it up right here. Thank you so much to all of the kings and the queens who have been here with me this afternoon. Thank you so much for interacting with me in the chat section. The chat section was very lively today. I really enjoyed interacting with you today. This was a very interesting conversation. I look forward to coming back next week. And we're going to hit part 2 of this self-love conversation. So be here for that and bring a friend with you. I send you all love and light. Thank you for your continued support of the Always a Queen platform. And speaking of support of the platform, I need you to make sure that you are following Always a Queen, The Metamorphosis on all the social media platforms. So if you haven't already done so, please do it now. You need to be following us on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok. Yes, I'm on TikTok too. Hello. And on Twitter and on YouTube. Yes, you get into it. Queens, what are you waiting for? You need to see what we are doing. We are spreading our wings and making our presence felt all throughout the social media world, empowering the queens everywhere. That's what we're doing in 2022. All right, so follow and support the platform and make sure you're back here next week, Sunday, for our part 2 of the Self-Love Sunday conversation. All right. So I send you all love and light. And as usual, you know how we end it here. Be a beautiful week. Bye bye.